This is your news source evening bulletin for today, Tuesday, the 17th day of January in the year 2023. I'm Gordon Mosley reporting, and here's what we're tracking tonight. Police investigators in Berbice are probing the murder of a 67-year-old man and his 60-year-old wife. The couple, Subnat Buduraj and Sarsawati Buduraj, were found murdered this morning at their Blackbush Polder quarantine home. They operated a small shop at the same location. It is suspected that they were attacked and murdered during a robbery. One of the bodies was found in the shop while the other body was found in the house. Both bodies bore multiple injuries, according to the police. The husband's body bore a slash to the neck and multiple stab wounds, while the wife's body bore a slash to the neck.
The female, she have what is deemed to be an object on her left side of her neck, and she was lying face down in the living quarters, or where you say dining area. And the male, he was also lying face down in the business area or the shop environment where they conduct normal business and so forth.
Police investigators were called to the scene early this morning after neighbors raised an alarm after seeing smoke coming out of the house.
We received a report within 4:30 this morning of a lead fire at this location by residents of Yakasari. The police had to come here based on information received from the neighbors and so forth, that they heard a loud explosion, and subsequently they saw smoke and what deemed to be fire coming out from the bottom flat of this two-story building. They tried to gain access. They would have do so by break down the gates and the fence, Farm Bucket Brigade, and put the fire to control. Upon pushing the door, one of the residents said they noticed two persons were lying face down, and they didn't enter. Subsequently,
the neighbors formed a bucket brigade, and it was after they put out a small fire that the bodies of the husband and the wife were discovered. Both bodies bore some burn marks. The police suspect that the attacker or attackers attempted to burn the house down after carrying out the double murder. Investigators have revealed that the entire house was ransacked. Persons in the area have been questioned by the police as part of the investigation. Tonight, there are reports that two suspects have since been held.
It's been a long time coming. Overdue, some might say. But now that it's here, it will change life forever. And it is here to stay. The future is now. Transforming Guyana into the 21st century. Introducing GTT Fiber. Experience internet connectivity like never before. Speeds you deserve at prices you can afford from a name you can trust. Sign up today. GTT Fiber is here. GTT. Together, we rise faster.
Giftland Office Max, we're all about customer satisfaction. Whether it's clothing and shoes for the ladies, gents, and kids, or for the latest electronics or hardware appliance, we're always thinking of satisfying you, our dear customers. Now you can shop online at www.giftlandofficemax.com or visit us at the Giftland Mall, where we're happy to serve each and every one of you.
Did you know that you can check your NIS contributions online? Simply visit our website at www.nis.org.gy. Click on the Create New Account button and enter the required information. An automatic email notification will be sent to acknowledge your application. Once your information is authenticated, you will receive an email within 48 hours with instructions on how to access the site. Once logged in, you can click on the My Contributions tab on the left side of the screen to view your contributions. For further information, you can call our records department on 225-2798 or visit your nearest NIS office.
Get in the game with Buster. Win a full gaming setup, Xbox X, gaming chair, gaming speaker and headset, or any of over 60 weekly prizes like Oculus Quest 2, Mini 2 drone, Nintendo Switch, and many more top gaming prizes. Check below for details.
Well, fresh off of an official visit to India where he encouraged the country's government and private sector to invest in Guyana's booming oil industry, President Irvin Ali today said that the offer to be part of the auction of Guyana's oil blocks are extended to all countries and companies. Guyana recently announced the opening up of an auction period for 14 oil blocks.
We are encouraging every single company. Let me say this very clear. Guyanese company, any company, you want to be part of the auction, please come up. Any government in any part of the world, any company in any part of the world, you are free to be part of the auction.
Speaking on his just concluded visit to India, the president also said the Indian government, as well as its private sector, were encouraged to auction for any of the 14 oil blocks.
It was also a clear undertaking that the private sector of India in the oil and gas sector will be encouraged to participate in that auction. We also encourage the government of India to have their agency participate directly in the auction also, because we would like to see as much people, every government that is interested in participating in the auction participate, we will welcome it. We love it.
The competitive bidding round for the 14 oil blocks offshore Guyana is expected to close by the 14th of April. According to the government, contracts could be awarded as early as May of this year. Apart from the auction, President Ali said the Indian government has again expressed a desire to purchase crude oil directly from the Guyanese government on a long-term basis. He noted that while one of the oil lifts went to India in the past, the country has been encouraged to submit a proposal for review by his government.
India has made it very clear that they have an interest in being one of the purchasers of Guyana's oil. They've also made it very clear that they would love to have a long-term relationship in relation to the lift. There is absolutely no secret about that. So that the technical teams will work and to see what proposal India would put forward.
It was noted that the Indian government also has a keen interest in supporting Guyana's development of its oil and gas resources through technology transfer, human resource development, and capacity building in terms of value-added services. Vice President Jack Do is expected to travel to India in February for a forum, and at that time he will follow up on discussions held by President Ali and the private sector delegation. Let's tell you now that with the aim of continuing the government's development agenda, the Finance Minister Dr. Ashley Singh presented a $781.9 billion budget to the nation on Monday. In a 5.5-hour speech that was punctuated with sips of honey and water, the Finance Minister said the government intends to continue on its path with major initiatives to further push economic growth in Guyana. The budget caters for billions of dollars of investments in roads and bridges, education, health, and social programs. A menu of measures were announced that the government hopes will stabilize the effects of the cost of living and rising inflation. While there is no reduction in the value-added tax, the 14% VAT will be removed from the importation of all new electric vehicles and the sale of residential properties. The duty on new vehicles that are less than 4 years old and below 1500 cc in engine size will see a reduction in the excise tax by 10%. Older vehicles that are below the engine size of 1500 cc will now attract a flat rate tax of $800,000. In terms of social programs, the old age pension will be increased by $5,000 from the current $28,000 per month to $33,000 per month. Public assistance will be increased also by $2,000, taking that up to $16,000 per month. It was also announced late last night that more working persons will find themselves out of the tax net as the income tax threshold has been increased by $10,000 to $85,000 monthly. For parents looking for government support, the Because We Care cash grant will continue. And under the new budget, each child in the private and public education system will benefit from an increase in the cash grant. The annual grant will be increased from $25,000 to $35,000 per year. And the uniform fee will remain at $5,000 per year. The government's part-time job initiative will continue this year, and $10 billion has been allocated to cover the salaries of those persons to be hired for part-time government jobs. This year's budget will also see over $136 billion being spent on roads, $54 billion will go towards the housing sector, $94 billion is to be spent on education, and the health sector will receive an injection of $84.8 billion. The budget also caters for a number of initiatives and programs that the government believes will put more money in the pockets of citizens, according to the finance minister. It was also announced that the economy grew by 62.5% last year and is now projected to grow by 25.1% this year. Having sat through the more than 5-hour budget presentation on Monday, Opposition Leader Irvin Norton said, while the budget is big on spending, much of that spending will not directly impact the lives of citizens who are faced with rising inflation and the high cost of living. In an initial response to the 2023 budget, Mr. Norton said more should have been injected to deal with the inflation problems that have been plaguing the country.
The most critical thing at this stage is inflation and what inflation is doing to our country. And there are absolutely no measures in this budget to deal with inflation. While I agree that there is need for assistance, one also recognizes that if you are putting money into the system without measures to deal with inflation, the cost of living will go up further. And so in some regard, this budget is a recipe for increasing the cost of living of the people.
The opposition leader said the PP civic administration also seems to be measuring the economic growth of the country as development. He said the government should not be confused with the two.
Growth isn't development. Development is when resources are meeting people and it's impacting their lives in a positive way. In large measure, this budget is a very large budget that puts a lot of resources in the hands of the PPP elite, their family, friends, and favorites.
Mr. Norton said while the minister announced billions of dollars in earnings from the oil sector, the increases in the threshold and social programs are minor.
When one looks at the entire presentation, the minister was announcing billions in income from oil. But here you would say in $10,000 increase in the threshold. You would say in, because we care cash grant, 35,000 increase of 10,000. Now you are raking in billions and you are offering the poor increases in the vicinity of 10,000. In the case of old age pension, it is 5,000 a month. That cannot impact positively the cost of living. Now public assistance is 14,000. You increase it by 2,000 to 16,000 and you're celebrating it. What can 16,000 buy in this society? And so it is our considered opinion that this budget is a dismal failure.
According to the opposition leader, the opposition will dig more into the budget in the coming days and during the budget debates, which begin next Monday.
It's your time to win big. Spend $2,000 or more at any Massey stores to enter our Christmas Jackpot promotion. You can be the lucky winner of a brand new Nissan X-Trail. You can also win a sofa set, Samsung gas stove, motorcycle, $300,000 in cash, or a fabulous weekend trip for two. Shop now until January 31st for a chance to hit Massey's Christmas Jackpot. Check out our Facebook, Instagram, or website for more details.
Still Still with the budget, right now we turn our focus to taxation. The Guyana government collected a total of $176.1 billion in internal revenue last year, and that represents an increase of 32.1% over the previous year. The announcement was made by the Minister of Finance. He said the expansion in revenue collection is attributed largely to higher collections of private sector corporation taxes, the personal income tax, and withholding taxes, which grew by $16.9 billion, $12 billion, and $10.4 billion, respectively. Additionally, the minister said growth in withholding tax collections is mainly attributed to higher collections from the oil and gas sector. Despite the increase in tax collection, the collection of the value-added tax and the excise tax took a dip. On the other hand, collections from the value-added tax net of refunds expanded by $8.5 billion when compared with 2021, totaling $56.8 billion at the end of last year. He further explained that customs and trade tax collections grew by $4 billion above its 2021 level to reach $31.1 billion last year. The minister further explained that customs and trade tax collections grew by $4 billion. He also said in contrast, non-tax revenues totaled $9.8 billion at the end of last year, $1.8 billion below the 2021 collections. Further, the central government recorded a deficit of $155.5 billion, or 11.8% of the GDP at the end of last year. The move by 8 opposition members of parliament to the High Court for a reversal of their suspension has been shut down after Justice Damon Yang ruled that the court does not have jurisdiction to hear the case. The MPs wanted the court to nullify the report of the Committee of Privileges that resulted in their suspension in July of last year. But the Attorney General Anil Nandlal successfully challenged the court's jurisdiction to hear the matter, citing Article 165 of the Constitution, which states that subject to the provisions of the Constitution, the National Assembly may regulate its own procedure and may make rules for that purpose. The High Court judge, in agreeing with the Attorney General, said the court lacks jurisdiction to hear the matter. She said the Privileges Committee, which produced the report, is a creature of the National Assembly and has been established by its standing orders. She said its functions have been defined by the standing orders to which all members of the Parliament, including the applicants, must adhere to. The High Court judge also said while the applicants challenged the report emanating from the Privileges Committee, they did not challenge the standing orders, which laid the foundation for the committee to function. Having considered the notices of application disputing the court's jurisdiction to hear and determine the applicant's case, Justice Yang ruled that a case brought by the suspended MPs is not exceptional and does not warrant the exercise of the court's constitutional jurisdiction. She said for that reason the court will refrain from inquiring into the internal proceedings of the National Assembly. The ruling came at a time when 4 of the members of Parliament, Mahipal, Jones, Singh Lewis, and Duncan, are no longer on suspension. Their suspension ended in December. However, the other 4 MPs will remain on suspension until next week. The head of the Customs Anti-Narcotics Unit, James Singh, has raised concern over what he considers a disheartening situation. Persons being involved in large drug busts being granted bail and in some instances waiting long for their trials. Over the weekend, Mr. Singh said while fingers are being pointed at KANU for a weak prosecution, he does not think the agency should take the blame since it has bolstered its prosecution capabilities.
But here, just we've seized you with we seized the drugs, we've arrested you, we've put you before the court, only for you to be placed in bail. It's a bit disheartening at times, yes.
The KANU head made it clear that he was not criticizing the judiciary, but he believes there should be a closer look into the handling of drug matters and serious consideration must be given to the work of the Customs Anti-Narcotics Unit.
What is a bit disturbing is the fact that the time in which it takes for a case to be completed. Why I do not want to criticize the judiciary, I guess there's a backlog, but it doesn't help when you arrest someone today and they're placed on bail and their case is now being called until 4 or 5 months after.
The head of KANU said in many instances when persons are found with illegal drugs and they are granted bail by the courts and then they have to wait a lengthy time for their trials, they in some cases become repeat offenders. The Guyana Fire Service has concluded that a fire which gutted the Christchurch Secondary School last Thursday was an act of arson. In its investigations, the fire service has ruled out the possibility of any electrical problem being the cause of the fire. In a statement, the fire service said it has been working overtime to investigate the root cause of the fire at the same location where it investigated a smaller fire a few days earlier. That previous fire was caused by a chemical combustion, but all chemicals were removed from the building after that fire, the fire service said. The fire service also found that the latest and more devastating fire was maliciously set, as there was evidence of several points of origin in the building. The fire service said despite its efforts to contain the blaze last week, more than 80% of the building and its contents were destroyed, with the remainder suffering severe damage. Additionally, 3 close-by buildings were affected. Over 500 students of the school have been displaced. They are now engaged in online classes with their teachers.
Food Max Supermarket, located on the ground floor of the Giftland Mall, is your one-stop shop for all your grocery needs. We stock a variety of imported frozen meat and food products, fresh produce, and pet supplies, freshly made bread. Rotisserie chicken and patties are also available daily. Shop in comfort today at Food Max and let our courteous staff assist you in satisfying your shopping needs. Food Max, the fresh food specialist.
It's one of your biggest goals, getting your own home, where memories are made, where happiness lives. You may feel that home ownership or renovation is beyond your reach, but we at Republic want you to know that there's always a way. Ask us about our suite of mortgages. Let's help make your housing wishes come true. Or advise on how the equity in your existing home can finance other dreams and goals. Call or go online to learn more.
Get in the game with Buster. Win a full gaming setup, Xbox X, gaming chair, gaming speaker and headset, or any of over 60 weekly prizes like Oculus Quest 2, Mini 2 drone, Nintendo Switch, and many more top gaming prizes. Check below for details.
Fuel it up and drive, Super 95. Tune up. Fuel it up and drive, Super 95. Tune up. Protect your fuel system, boy. High mileage and performance, boy.
Guy Super 95 gasoline gives you more reasons to drive and is available at 56 service stations nationwide. For affordable price, high performance, and high mileage, choose Guy's Super 95 gasoline.
Fuel it up and drive.
Across the region tonight, the Bahamas detained an increasing number of seaborne Cuban migrants last year compared to 2021. The Royal Bahamas Defense Force apprehended 623 Cuban migrants last year compared to 17 in the year prior. Cuban vessels typically ended up in Bahamian waters after being blown off course or navigating the wrong way while trying to reach Florida. Vessels are increasingly leaving from Cuba's central Ciego de Villa province. Bahamian officials have said the number of Cuban migrants intercepted so far has increased significantly during the past 2 months. 61 Cubans have been intercepted in Bahamas so far for this year. Most Cuban migrants in 2022 arrived in the U.S. by the border with Mexico, though some still made perilous sea voyages, reports the Reuters news agency. Across in Mexico, the country has brought into force one of the world's strictest anti-tobacco laws by enacting a total ban on smoking in public places. The step, which was first approved in 2021, also includes a ban on tobacco advertising. Several other Latin American countries have also passed legislation to create smoke-free public spaces. However, Mexico's legislation is considered to be the most robust and wide-ranging in the Americas. It amounts to one of the most stringent anti-smoking laws in the world. Mexico's existing 2008 law, which created smoke-free spaces in bars, restaurants, and workplaces, is now extended to an outright ban in all public spaces, which includes parks, beaches, hotels, offices, and restaurants. And there will also be a total ban on the advertising, promotion, and sponsorship of tobacco products, meaning that cigarettes cannot even be on show inside shops. And finally tonight, international news. China's population has fallen for the first time in 60 years, with the national birth rate hitting a record low. The population in 2022, 1.41 billion, fell by 850,000 from 2021. China's birth rate has been declining for years, prompting a slew of policies to try to slow the trend. But 7 years after scrapping the one-child policy, China has entered what one official described as an era of negative population growth. The birth rate in 2022 was also down from 7.52 in 2021, according to China's National Bureau of Statistics. In comparison, in 2021, the US recorded a birth rate of 11.06 per 1,000 people, and the UK 10.08 births. The birth rate for the same year in India, which is poised to overtake China as the world's most populous country, was 16.42. Deaths also outnumbered births for the first time last year in China. And that's your News Source Evening Bulletin for tonight. I'm Gordon Mosley reporting and encouraging you to stay safe.